Welcome everyone to another Kingdom Cards video. Today we're going to be switching things up a bit and we're going to be talking about the top 5 resources that I have found over the last year and a half that have been incredibly useful to me in card collecting. I'm ready. I hope you are too. Let's get into the video. So as we get into the video, I have 2 disclaimers before we start. And the first is that this list is by no means an exhaustive list. This is simply some of the top resources that I have found useful to me, and I think will be useful to you as well. The second disclaimer is that this is more of a podcast type episode where I'm just going to be talking about some of these different resources, and there's not going to be a ton happening on the screen. Hopefully my video editor is up to the challenge. So the first resource I wanted to talk about was Slabstox, and they're a little bit hard to describe simply because they do a lot of everything. They're YouTubers, they're podcasters, I guess you could say they're YouTubecasters or podtubers. They have a great lineup of content. So you have Aaron, who's kind of the head of the operation. You have Nate, who heads up their Dinging Corners podcast about baseball, as you could imagine. I follow a lot of his content. You have Slam Dunks podcast with Slabstox Sam, focuses on NBA, basketball. You have Zach, who heads up the Slabstox FC podcast about soccer. You also have Mealy Stocks, which is run by Jameel of Mealy Pops, which is a card store out of Gainesville, Florida. And he gives a interesting perspective on the hobby from the perspective of a card shop owner and someone that participates in a lot of the national card shows. They also host a live stream at 5 p.m. Central Time on Mondays where Aaron and Nate, sometimes a guest, will discuss some of the top trends in the hobby, some of the top news. For example, a couple of weeks ago when the news broke about Fanatics getting the licenses to the MLB, NBA, and NFL, they covered it. Slabstox also does breaks. For those that don't know what breaks are, some people might not be able to afford to buy a $100, $200, $300 box of cards, but they may be able to pay $20 to get into a break of a certain player or a certain team from a product. Slabstox also has an excellent PodTube series. I think I'm just going to patent that name. That seems like a good one. I'm going to stick with it. But they have an excellent PodTube series called Slabstox 101. This was something that I listened to when I was first starting out in card collecting, and they really go through the basics of card collecting. They detail the supplies you need. They go through the major players in the industry, the grading companies, the manufacturers, the card shows. They go into the do's and don'ts of the hobby, whether or not you're investing or collecting or maybe doing some of both. They're an excellent resource. I hope you guys check them out. Next, we have Cardboard Connection, and this is really the Bible of card collecting. This website has almost everything you could imagine for card collecting. They're most widely known for keeping track of all the checklists for the different products. So, for example, if I'm looking to see what players are going to be in 2021 Bowman Draft, I can go on their website, search 2021 Bowman Draft. They're going to detail all the players that are going to be in that product once that is released by the manufacturing companies. They're going to get into the different types of parallels, what each type of hobby box, jumbo hobby box, retail box is, what you can expect in them as far as hits or color. They also tell you what the release dates of the products are. Going back to 2021 Bowman Draft, I can look on the website and see that that's going to be releasing in early December, and to be on the lookout for that either online or at my local card shop. They're not just a resource for card collecting. As I was looking on their website tonight, not only do they have details on all of the major sports cards, they also get into WWE, they get into Pokemon, They get into Funko, as there's been a rise in collecting Funko figures as well. They've got a lot of everything. In addition, they also have resources on supplies similar to the Slabstox 101 videos I mentioned earlier. They detail some of the supplies you need not only for sports card collecting, but Funko collecting, memorabilia collecting. Just an excellent tool for you. Definitely worth checking out. The third resource I wanted to mention was podcasts and sports radio. This is the first of the resources that I'm cheating just a bit, and I'm lumping a category or a couple of different things into a category together. The reason being that sports cards and memorabilia collecting are driven not only by the greatest players of all time, but also by hype. Let's take an example in baseball. You've got Wander Franco cards are just shooting through the roof right now, and yet you've got solid veteran players. Let's take a Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. These guys that are perennial all-star caliber players, their cards are not as valuable. Why? It's because of the hype. This is where I think podcasts and sports radio are a great resource. You can learn about the players that are trending. You can learn about players that are getting a lot of national media attention, a lot of local media attention. Several of the podcasts that I listen to are The Program with Soren Petro. He's a local sports talk show host out of the Kansas City area. Been listening to him actually since I was 12 years old. When I was homeschooled, I'd turn his radio show on and listen to it as I was reading books as kind of background noise. Another podcast I listen to is Locked On MLB Prospects with Aram Layton. This is a great resource for those that are wanting to learn about the minor leagues, potential up-and-coming prospects. And Aram Layton just has a great knowledge of the minor leagues. He's easy to listen to, very interesting. As knowledgeable as Aram is, though, I have a beef with him. And it's that it seems like the last 2 or 3 weeks in his podcast, at least once a week, he mentions how great MJ Melendez is doing, which is awesome. But he also mentions how bad of a defensive catcher Salvador Perez is. And I think that's not accurate. I think Salvador Perez's defensive metrics are skewed by the fact that he doesn't get a good rating for his pitch framing. And I would say that a lot of that is due to the pitchers that are throwing to him, as well as the fact that by the way that he frames pitches, the way that he's concentrated on getting his body out there, the way that he's concentrated on staying healthy, that more than enough makes up for the bad framing numbers. And if we're moving to robot umps in the future anyway, why does that matter? He's having an incredible season. He's tied for the major league lead in home runs. Just surpassed Johnny Bench's record. Legendary catcher for the Cincinnati Reds, and actually one of my dad's favorite players. Just don't understand. Do not understand that take, Aram. Also, I am biased, and maybe one of these days I'll show you guys all of the Salvador Perez swag I have in the man cave. So definitely not an unbiased opinion, but I think a good one if I do say so myself. The fourth resource I'm going to mention is breakers and content creators. And you may ask, well, I'm not big into buying into breaks, or I don't really care about watching videos online of other people breaking cards or opening wax. Why would I care about this? The sports card and memorabilia world has drastically changed since March of 2019. Things are a lot more expensive. It's very difficult to go to Walmart and find a box of cards. Back in the day, you could pick up a pack or two for, $5, $10, open it, see if you were interested in the product, and, maybe go back in a day or 2 or 3 or even a week and buy some more. That's just simply not the case anymore. It's so hard to find good product, especially ones that you're really interested in or that are very popular. So I think watching content creators or breakers opening cards is a great way for you to see what are the hits, what are the products that you're interested in. You can find out through this, do you like the design of the cards? Do the cards have great quality control around them? Are you seeing a lot of print lines on cards being opened? Or do they look like they're in pretty good shape? It's a great way not only to entertain yourself, but also get a sneak peek at a product that you may be buying in the future. Some of my favorite content creators is Phil's Pools. Phil Hughes was a former pitcher in Major League Baseball. His videos are really entertaining and have a high production value around them. Some other content creators that have good videos are Sports Card Investor, PSA Collector, Jabs Family, Strom's Pools, and Striker Breaks. The last resource I wanted to talk about was market data websites. Whether you're into sports cards and memorabilia for the collecting or investing side of it, market data websites provide a lot of good information. They can give you a heads up on trends in the hobby. You may see that in the off months of a sport that cards of some of your favorite players are lower. Why? Because people aren't paying attention to baseball as much in November, December, January. That's when football's in full swing. Conversely, you may see football in April, May, June. That may dip then as well because people are focused on baseball. Same goes with the other sports as well. This can give you a good opportunity to buy into some cards at a lower price point than you would if you were waiting for the peak of the season. Some of these resources could include Slabstox Pro, which is a free resource that has market-driven data, particularly on slabs. You can look at eBay for previous sales history for a couple of months. I believe eBay is also working on a beta version of some sort of market data tracker as well. I've seen a couple of emails on it. I don't have much information around it. Definitely check it out, though. Could be a really good resource. There's also Card Ladder. Sports Card Investor also has a resource that tracks market data. Both this resource and Card Ladder are a paid service, but you may still find those useful to you, especially if you're trying to flip cards, if you're trying to sell cards. Knowing the right time to get in and out is very important. That'll do it for the video today, guys. In the comments, I'd love to hear some of the resources that you have found in card collecting that have been useful to you. Or is there a resource that I mentioned that you hadn't thought about or that are going to try now? If you guys enjoyed what you watched today, please like the video, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Blessings.